Hello, YouTube, and welcome to the fourth episode of my pair programming podcast. So, in the previous episode, we went ahead and we built out the schema for the application chat map that we're going to be building throughout this entire series. We laid out all the entities, the relationships that existed between the different entities, and all as well as the data types inside of each entity. So, in this episode, we're going to be moving to the next phase of the project design process, which is UI UX prototyping. So, by the end of this episode, we would have established a color theme for our app, as well as the layout of most of the important pages. So in order to help me do this today, I have invited a friend and one-time coworker of mine back when I interned at Microsoft, Leah Johansen.
Hi, I'm Leah Johansen. I'm currently a program manager at Microsoft, but I'm a recent graduate from the University of Washington, and I just graduated in June 2020, and I studied human-centered design and engineering with a concentration in data science. So it's good to be here.
Awesome. Thanks for taking the time. Cool. Again, thanks for being here. So yeah, I've been looking forward to this episode a lot because I feel like this is going to be the first episode where people can actually like see things. It's like more visual. In the last one, we were focusing more on building the data structure for the entire applications and scoping it out. So now we're gonna work on a set of the first views of the app, and just give people that are watching a sense of how this goes down usually.
Makes
So yeah,
sense.
my goal for the day is to scope out at least 4 of the pages of the app. Well, 2 things. First off is to develop to establish like a theme, so a set of colors like primary colors, secondary colors. I don't think we have to go much deeper than those 2, but you'll be the judge of that. And then scope out what the login page should look like. As well as the map view. So I don't think I've explained this application to you, have I? That's probably the first thing I should do. So pretty much it's called Chat Map. And what it is, it's an application that allows people to create chat rooms based on geographic location. And then anybody who discovers a chat room can join in and they can all chat together. So think like, for example, Planet Fitness or whatever. So somebody can create a chat for Planet Fitness based on a specific Planet Fitness location. And then anybody who frequents that gym can just join the chat and everybody's talking together, right? So a few key pages would obviously be, login, sign up. That's basic for every single application. And then we will also have, the map view. And then there's going to be the chat. There's going to be like a list for like all the chats a user is in part of. Or maybe I'm thinking whether it should be a list or maybe the map view can just suffice as like a way of showing all the chats a user is a part of, but we can get into that at some point later.
Yeah, we can talk about the pros and cons of both.
And then obviously then the last page would be the chat room itself with all the messages, et cetera. And yeah, I think how many was that? Login, chat,
That was
map
like
page.
3 to 4, depending if we want to have a specific one just for the chats.
Gotcha. Makes sense. So yeah, that's gonna be the goal for today, is just to scope those out, get a general sense of what those should look like. And
Cool.
yeah, we should be yeah, it's exciting.
Okay, do we do like you were saying like we're doing it in sections, so are we doing like just a section of like questions and then we're gonna go into talking about like doing the actual project and also just kind of having a conversation? Are we gonna jump right into the
Yeah.
Figma?
Usually in the beginning, I like to just jump right into it and just get things started. But
Yep.
there doesn't have to be a set structure, right? It can flow however or any which way.
Okay. Sounds good.
Okay. So one thing that I'm excited about with this episode is that this is probably going to be the first episode where it's not going to be me doing as much, just because in like the previous episodes, and I guess it's just because of the way it is, whether it's like me writing code or doing the design, it made more sense for me to be the one doing it most of the time. But here, and I believe you're already in the Figma board or whatever it's called, and right. So here, by far, you're, as far as like designing, you're much better at it than myself. So I can kick back, I can relax, and let you do your thing. So yeah, but ideally, I guess we can start with like the frame of the device. Do you have like any? So this is gonna be like a mobile app for phones. I don't know if you have like a preferred size or anything like that.
Yeah. So you're sharing the Figma file that we're on.
Yes, yes. The screen is being
Okay.
shared
Yeah. So
currently.
usually in the top left, we have our frame. And
Mm-hmm.
so you always start there because that's kind of like your canvas. And so then
Mm-hmm.
I just go to frame. And Figma is really awesome because it already has like all of the devices that you would want, like iPhones, tablets, desktops. So if we want to do for phone, it doesn't matter to me. We could probably just do the most updated, like iPhone 13,
13. Sounds
and I'll
good.
just make it. And so this will be our first frame. And so I like to go over here and name it just so I don't get really confused. So this could be like our
Mm,
login screen.
awesome. Watching the magic happen. Yeah,
Um,
this tool is very, very similar to Adobe XD, which is another one, which is the one I use primarily. I haven't really used Figma in
yeah,
my own
Adobe
personal
XD is good.
projects. Yeah,
Yeah.
which do you prefer of the two?
I don't actually have a lot of experience in Adobe XD, even
Mm,
though in my program we did a lot with Adobe Suite, like Illustrator, Photoshop, a little bit of XD, but I like Figma the most because you can just take it wherever you want, and also it's really good with collaboration.
right.
And I think it's way better than Adobe XD. So when we're working or something, especially in work now, I can just send files really easily, and it just goes to the Figma.com. And
Mm,
if I'm having like a design session or something, multiple people can be in it, and you can see kind of like live updates. So um, that's kind of my preferred. And I think Microsoft mostly focuses just like on Figma. And I think we've kind of recently made that transition,
mm.
but it's cool.
Awesome, awesome. Yeah, I think the biggest selling point for me that I've seen so far is the collaborative aspect of it, because I don't think it's I've never tried, but I don't think it's very easy to do collaborative
Yeah.
design on XD.
Yeah, Figma's definitely, and like a lot of school programs use Figma, so like Figma's probably like the top skill that if you're a designer or even a PM, and even if you're an engineer, like you could definitely pick it up easily and like get help from people. And they have to. Figma has a lot of tutorials, so if you just type in like how to make a screen or how to make it fade or something,
Mm,
there's just a lot of tutorials that Figma has out there.
gotcha. Yeah, so for all you designers, this looking like the tool or the go-to.
Okay. So usually what I like to do is I kind of like to set out the screens that we're going to do. So I kind of have like
Mm,
a step-by-step vision of what we're going to do. And so
right.
obviously apps have a login screen. And then we were going to have a map screen.
Mm-hmm.
So I usually just copy and paste it right over here. I like to give
Yeah,
myself a little space
that's like
and then
developer's
rename that.
favorite tool right there. Control C, Control V. What
Same
would
with
we
designers.
what would we do without that?
Map view. Um, and then we quickly were talking about if we were going to have a separate like chat one. You remind
Right,
me.
right. Like a separate list view for like you know how like chat applications have like a list view of all the chats that you're
Hmm.
engaged in. Yeah, that was
And then an actual frame for like what it looks like when you're chatting.
yeah, the chat room. So you majored in human-centered design and
And
with a
engineering.
focus in engineering. Could you elaborate a bit on like exactly what that is for us,
Yeah.
stoic non-design geeks out there?
It's very unique. And I always have
Yeah.
to slowly say it. So it's human centered design and engineering.
Hmm.
And I think it's very specific to the University of Washington.
Okay.
There's like similar programs probably at other colleges like HCI and stuff, or if you're like an interaction designer. But basically, we focus on an intersection between design and computer science and technology. And so we
Interesting.
focus a lot on user experience. And so, like the UX process, I think UX is becoming really big lately. And I think it's going to continue becoming very popular. And so, I focus a lot on like the design process of like starting with like who your customer or user is and like what are their problems, what are they doing in their daily lives, and like where is that problem occurring.
Hmm.
So that's kind of one point. We like to do like a lot of user research, so interviews, just observations,
Hmm.
and then we also focus on like the design. And so we learn how to make icons and how to make these prototypes, hi-fi and lo-fi. And then kind of
Can you
like the
explain those
last,
two terms? I'm not sure if everyone will
yeah,
understand hi-fi,
lo-fi is
lo-fi.
just like, and I'm pretty sure we'll be doing lo-fi for this
Mm-hmm.
Figma. But basically, you just do that basic outline of, um, if I wanted a login screen here, let's just say like, I'll just do a box right here, and then I would type
All
something
right. Hold on
in there that would
one
say
second.
like,
Let me switch my screen to. Okay, there you go. Because I have to like move
so
it so I can see what you're doing on my end.
yeah, and so I like rounded corners usually, so you can go
Mm-hmm.
over to the side panel right here, and maybe I need to do it more. Um, and so lo-fi would be just having like a gray box, and then I have some text, so the T for text. And then I would say maybe username
Mm.
or email.
Yeah, email. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Oops,
And
email.
one other thing people are gonna see in this video is like what usually happens when like you have a design team that is sketched out already like the database and the schema design, and then you have another separate design team that's doing like the prototyping, and we'll see like the how they interact with each other, because like for example you said username, but actually when we designed the schema it was email, etc., etc. So stuff like that would be also interesting to see throughout this video.
Yeah, no, that's good. And so this would, it's very like simple right now, and like we'll talk about color and stuff like that. But
Mm-hmm.
this would be kind of like a lo-fi. I'm just kind of putting squares in. You don't really put like, if you're having visual like pictures, I'm assuming for
Right.
our map, like we could probably get a picture, but I might just put like a square and put
A
like map on
square.
it.
Mm-hmm.
And then hi-fi would be like almost like the real app, and that's what you would give the engineers, where it has all the pixels correctly. And this is kind of more along the lines of what a designer would do at a company. um, they would give the pixels and all the colors and the hex codes and stuff like that to the engineers. Also, lo-fi's can just be like sketching on your notebook. I always usually try to start with that, but I can also just do it in Figma. But sketching, like very easy, doesn't need to take time, because lo-fi's are usually, you're going to be making changes. You get input from other PMs, engineers, designers, and so you don't want to spend a lot of time on it and get super invested, because then people will give you feedback and you want to be able to easily make those changes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, when you mention that, something pops into my head. And I don't know if you're like this, but a lot of people are, where it's like people who are highly passionate about the things that they do, and maybe a bit of perfectionism sprinkled in there as well. But it's like, whenever you take your time to design something, and like you kind of put your identity, so to speak, into it, and then like
Mm-hmm.
it gets shot down by, I don't know, other stakeholders, for example. I'm asking these because personally I get this sometime. Not as much now as when I like first started working in like with other teams, in teams. But it's like, oh, I thought I had this great idea, but it got shut down, et cetera, et cetera. Have you ever experienced that so far as uh, in your full time work? What has that
Mm-hmm.
been like for you?
Yeah, I have. So again, I tried not to like make it too much of a high fidelity. I just kind of put some blocks together to show like what idea I was having, and I did a lot of those, and I put them in a presentation. And I would say like majority of them was shot down for
Oof.
technical reasons. For I'm learning quickly, and kind of in being in like the real world, I guess, that there's constraints not other than just engineering and design, but there's like branding
Mm,
and marketing kind of constrictions, and also kind of like different teams have different goals. So some team might be, their goal is revenue, and then another team might be, which is like more my team, our goal is to please the consumer, make things delightful. And so sometimes we kind of go head to head in that, because something we want to add might decrease revenue. And so a lot of those ideas were shot down. And it was hard, I think, at first, because in school you can kind of go with whatever you want to go with.
mm.
And you can kind of have wild ideas and big ideas.
I don't know what school you
And
went to, not in
so
mine. Or
in mine, like I
maybe
guess,
it's the difference in our majors, because like in CS
yeah,
everything is so rigid. It's like, oh, if you don't, like, if you get a string wrong, like the text, if it's not exactly the way they want it to, it fails and it's not working. But
yeah. No, yeah, definitely. I think for ours, because it's just design, we didn't have to like
mm,
implement it. We could dream big, and so we were encouraged to do that, like make something completely new, like maybe technology we don't have yet.
right.
And so obviously I had to rein that in a little bit. And so I guess for any PMs who are out there, like definitely dream big, like don't constrain yourself. And so, make those big dreams and then kind of like step it back and like, how can we get there in like tinier steps? And so just start with like, okay, I know this is not the best user experience, but we can launch it. Engineers can engineer it. Branding is okay with it. Other revenue teams are okay with it. And then it's always really impressive to like leadership and stuff to um, have those like big goals and big visions, because they're like, okay, like that's where we could be going, but I'm glad you like took it in steps so like we can ultimately get there.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. All right, cool. So what we have so far, it's looking nice. So we've got the email, and I'm assuming there'll be one for password as well. So in that section that you put on top there is what do you think should go there? Like the logo of the application, or just a name in text, or what's
Yeah, so
your?
I like to um, kind of look at inspiration. So I have another page that I just said like login pages for apps.
Oh, okay, awesome.
And I like to just kind of get some inspiration from that. And um, I saw one that I kind of like where it has color here, and then you could maybe
Mm-hmm.
put your logo like right here,
Mm-hmm.
and then have your app name. So is that called Chat Map?
Chat map, right?
Then I would just make that a little bit bigger, maybe even bigger than that.
Mm-hmm.
Just so people know like this is your app, and I would. Do we want to talk about colors?
Yeah, absolutely. We don't have to do it right now. Maybe we can fill out all the pages and then turn
Yeah,
around and think about the colors. But yeah, I would like to get to that as well.
I'll just put kind of like this is where your logo would go.
Mm-hmm.
I'll just put it in a different color so we kind of can tell. I'm
Gotcha.
not sure if we want to, or if this app supports like login with Google or Facebook or something that could.
Not at the moment. Right now it's just email to keep it
Fair.
as simple as possible. But yeah.
No, that's fair. I'm just looking at inspiration of like, if we, there's like just a little bit of a difference between like a login screen and a sign up
And a
screen.
sign up
Could
screen.
pretty much be the same.
Yeah.
Um,
I think to save a bit of and this is another interesting thing. It's like I've always in my development experience, I've always whenever designing login pages from the engineering standpoint, it's like, okay, there's the one page layout versus the two page layout, right? So
mhm.
you can either put the login and sign up on the exact same page, where it's like, oh, you click a button and then another input box shows up that's like confirm password, right? And then
Yeah,
it changes to sign up, or it's like, oh, sign in, you click another button. And usually to do that, it takes more engineering for that one page versus if you split it. So for now, I'm tempted to say let's go with that, where it's like, so we might have to have like a separate view just to show that it is like, if you click sign up versus login, it shows the confirmed password versus not confirmed password. But right now it's just email password login.
right. Um, yeah, that could also, we could do it that way, or we could put another screen in like before this login screen that's like
Mm-hmm.
right when you open the app and you haven't done anything with it. It has like a sign up versus or login versus sign up button. We could also
Mm-hmm.
do it that way. But this
Mm-hmm.
could just be like the login screen, and then we'd have probably another button right here.
Mm-hmm.
That would, I would put it as like an actual color.
Yeah. So
Um,
from a user experience standpoint, what would you say about the pros and cons of both those different designs? The one you just mentioned versus the one I mentioned.
I think it just kind of depends. I think it's sometimes you just have to go with like what other apps already do to not like confuse the user.
True.
And so if you're like, I'm looking at like a couple few examples, like just Google it, like login pages for apps.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of them have like your first page of like
like a
I wonder if I can
welcome,
copy
and
this.
then yeah, if you can send me the link so I can put it up on here too, that'd be great. So like like the welcome screen, and then it has the options for okay, I see.
Like
Ooh,
this
you can.
is a good
Oh wow, you
example.
can also just put the images in there. Wow,
Yeah,
that's
you can copy
fantastic.
and paste images into it. So like this is like water delivery,
Ah,
and then you can
okay.
have a login to sign up. And so ours would probably look like, I kind of like honestly like the welcome back. That's kind of
Mm,
fun. We could do something like chat map welcomes you back or something.
right.
And then ours kind of looks like this. And I think it's kind of fun that it's like, oh, I accidentally pressed the wrong button, like,
Mm,
or sign up, and it has a vice versa.
yeah, yeah, that looks great. Yeah.
So I'm just putting this in kind of like a darker color so we can have it whenever we figure out what color scheme we want.
Mm-hmm.
Um, we can change that. Do we want to do the create account one as well, or do we want to move on to the other one?
Let's do the create account one.
Okay,
Yeah.
I'm just going to select all these and we just move them over. A fun fact in Figma is if you want to move things up or down,
Mm-hmm.
side to side, but you don't want to like your hands kind of like my hand gets a little
Cramped.
jiggly, and so you just press shift and it'll
Ah,
just directly let you go.
yeah, gotcha.
So we'll call this the
Nice
sign up screen.
productivity tidbit right there.
And Figma is really nice as well. Like you have your grid lines, so like this is I know this is centered.
Mm-hmm.
And so what this has name as well. Maybe do you store the name? Do you want that?
Uh,
We could do two
yes,
passwords
actually.
instead.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Because we do need the user's name. Yeah, yeah. The name would be great.
Okay, wait, let me see. Actually, undo that. Undo is just Command Z or
Mm,
Control Z, depending on what you're in.
what OS? But
Yeah,
Mac OS is the superior OS. Regardless of what your employer might have to say about that.
I know. It just kind of depends. Like some people have it, and also grouping is really helpful in Figma. So it's
Mm,
Command G or Control, depending on, or you could just right click and it says Group Selection, and Figma is really cool, and it tells you like the shortcuts.
mm,
So this is super helpful. So I group the login text with the button. So now all I
right.
have to do is I just have to like move it down, and I don't know what that is, but um, then those I don't have to select both of them every single time
At
I
the
want to do
same
something
time.
like this. I had to select it, but I'm doing Command G, and then I can just move that down and not have to worry about like what's happening with it and stuff. So to ungroup it, you could also just do this, and then I guess it's not. This one is. You can usually just ungroup it right there. And so you can just ungroup it if you feel like I wanted to change it or something. So we'll put this as name
Mm.
and this as username. I guess I have two of them.
So, so name and username, is that like, so the name is the user's like actual, name on
Oh,
his ID?
did you have email?
Yeah,
You had
yeah,
email.
email. Yeah,
Okay.
exactly. And then maybe make the first one username. That way they know that it doesn't have to be necessarily like
Their name.
their
That's a
government
good
name.
idea. Um, I have not done design in a really long time, but to have those icons, you can definitely just like, if you're working for a company, they'll usually have a base, but I might try to find Icon Cloud.
Mm.
Icon Cloud is just a website. If you just, no, that's not it.
So you said you haven't done design like in a long time. Could you, and I thought that was interesting. Could you elaborate on that a bit? Like, what do you mean?
Like, I obviously graduated,
Mm-hmm.
um, and in my program, it kind of depended. A lot of some of my classes were about user research, so I had to
Mm-hmm.
interview people. I had to write up long research papers, and then, but some of them were like design classes. So one of them I had to make different icons. I had to make my own branding book,
Oh
and that
wow.
was honestly one of my favorite classes. I had to make my own color scheme and everything. Another class was going through this exact process right here,
Okay.
except for like obviously a longer period of time. But in my day
Right.
to day job as a PM, I don't really design too much,
Okay.
actually. I do very simple mocks sometimes if I want to show my designer kind of like what I'm trying to figure out and like how to do it.
Mm-hmm.
I'll show him some quick mocks that I've made, and then he'll make it like better because we have components. So I won't go into components for this, but if anyone wants to look up components, just go components Figma, and there's a bunch of different um, YouTube videos. But basically, a component is like a repeatable like asset. So if I want to make a component of this like fill in or like email slot, I can make that. And if I have multiple screens, which I do here, it's only 2, so I wouldn't do anything here. But
Right.
if I change the color, if this is a component and I change the color to blue, this will also
Also
change the blue. So I
change.
don't have to
Oh,
go in and
nice.
like edit every single little thing. So if
Right.
you're having like something that's very repetitive, I would suggest having and putting it as a component. This is, I've just pasted the link right here. It's called the Noun Project. That's usually where you can get icons for free. Sometimes you can pay for them if you don't want like the little asterisk, but sometimes I just cheat and I just delete the little asterisk. Or you can kind of have a page or something on your file and say like icons are from Noun Project,
From
so it
this
gives them credit.
place. Right, right. Oh, this is
But
pretty
yeah,
cool.
we'll just ignore that for now. But you can do that, and so it's just kind of fun to put some icons in sometimes. So
Yeah. I didn't even know a thing like this existed. Oh.
yeah, and then I'm pretty sure there is something called Icon Cloud, but it just kind of depends. Like a lot of companies have their own place where they'll get icons, to just ask around. But if you're kind of like freelance and you're doing your own things, like Noun Project, I think is a good place to get them.
Yeah, it looks dope.
Okay.
So I'm curious, and
There's
I'm not sure how much in detail you can go into it, but like, what does your day to day look like then as a PM over at Microsoft?
Yeah, definitely. I think as a PM, it's not going to be the same every single day because I one of the best things about being a PM is you're doing different things all the time.
Right.
One of the reasons that I was hesitant to go into being a SWE or being a designer is like your day is pretty much the same. Like you're coding something, what you're doing is like what you're coding or what you're designing is going to be different, but you're doing kind of like the same like tasks over and over again.
Over.
Versus a PM, some days I'm making designs and I'm doing research and like what users are complaining about. Like I think most companies have kind of like customer feedback area, so I usually go through that and see if there's areas where because customers are dissatisfied or if things they want to have as a feature. So some days I do that. Other days I'm filling out privacy white papers or security papers to get compliance from different team, like legal, privacy, and security. But I would say every day I'm in a lot of meetings regarding those different things that I was just saying, like design, privacy, engineering. But it really differs every single day and every single week, which is really nice for me because I don't really like doing the same things over and over again.
Right.
I like to have a change in my schedule, and so I think PM is really good for that.
And have you done the PM role at any like different company or before Microsoft?
I only interned at Microsoft when I was a PM, and I would just say like it's super different when you're an actual PM for full time. Like being a PM as an intern was really fun and very easy, I would say. You kind of just go through like the first process. So you're doing user research, you're doing design, and then you kind of stop when it gets serious when you have to engineer it because
Right.
when an internship's only like 10 weeks, so that's not a lot of time. So when you're a real PM, I learned really quickly that things are a lot more intense and like you really have to think about what's feasible and how it's going to affect other teams. So I think I can say this, but I work on like Office and M365. So I in Edge. And so I have to think about how my features in Edge are going to affect the Office team and make sure it is aligning with their goals as well. And so I have a lot of meetings with partner teams, which I think is really fun. And you're making those connections with different PMs and engineers and designers. And so, like, obviously networking is great.
Right.
And I think being a PM, you have to network a lot because you're kind of like the spokesperson for your feature. And you have to kind of go on like a road trip of like showing different people the product or feature and getting their buy-in essentially.
Their buy-in, what do you
Yeah,
like
so like
securing
their
them as users or?
buy-in is in like they kind of approve
Okay.
and they believe in what feature or product you're making.
Mm-hmm.
And so you're kind of like pitching it to them. You're like, oh, well, I want to add, I don't know, this is stupid. This is probably not, but like I'm adding this add button for um, adding like another user to my team or something.
Mm.
And so you go around and you say why you're doing that and how much work it's going to be and like what goals and how it's going to impact revenue and stuff. And you kind of tell that to other people and other teams, and they'll be like, oh, I have concerns about X, Y, and Z, and you
Mm.
address them or you fix them. And then ultimately, the goal is to be like, to get them to be like, yeah, like this is an awesome feature. Like, if you need any help, like hit me up. But this is really awesome. Like, I'm super excited. And so that's
Right.
the end goal of the what you want to hear as a PM.
Mm-hmm.
But I would say it's kind of difficult to get there. Um,
Yeah, I can imagine. Yeah. So when do we expect to get this add team members feature? Windows 12 or
I know.
13?
I'm not. That's not a real feature. That's not a real feature.
She's on the record, folks.
But Edge is really cool.
Yeah.
Um, I'm definitely in Chrome. Like I'm on Chrome right now, but
Hmm.
Edge has some cool features, and we're trying to improve it. So I guess a shameless plug to try out Edge.
Absolutely. Yeah, I've pretty much made it my default browser. But I feel like Chrome, it takes a lot of resources.
It
And to
does
me,
actually.
Edge
Yeah.
seems a lot lighter. And yeah, we're not even gonna be ashamed. We're just gonna plug it. Like it has features like the sleeping tabs and stuff, where like uses less resources and all that kind of stuff. So
Yep.
yeah, I've just at this point it's like my default browser on my laptop.
I
Only
love
on
to
my
hear it.
phone. On my phone, I still use Safari just cause iOS.
Yeah, it
But
just
yeah,
kind of
other
goes
than
with it.
that, I use Edge pretty much everywhere else.
Yeah, I if anyone loves shopping, Edge would be your uh, browser that you want to use because there's like
Mm,
right now you can get like coupons and stuff, and then just like automatically applies, and it tells you if prices changed and everything.
right.
So
Yeah, I know one
as
of
kind of a
our
shopaholic.
yeah, I know one of our mutual friends actually worked on that feature. I think either price changing or coupons, whatever, like last summer.
Yeah,
So yeah, she'd definitely be great for that. Be happy about that plug just there.
it's really fun. So yeah,
Yeah.
I think the login screen and sign up screen look good as like these are
Hmm.
what would a lo-fi be, and so we can go back maybe after we get the other stuff to make sure we can get the
As much
content
done
in.
as possible. Yeah, I gotcha. Cool,
Um,
cool. So next up, what, the map view?
So can you tell me a little bit more about the map? Like I think right now what I would do is I would just like um, have again just like a block of gray or
Like a
something and
gray
show like that would
box.
be the map that you're showing
Hmm.
because it's a little bit difficult for me to make a map. We could try to take time, but I wouldn't recommend that
Right.
to
No,
try to
I
find like a
agree.
little fake map.
Yeah. Let's start with a gray
Um,
box. And then, so
and
I'm
then
not, I'm not, even myself, I'm not necessarily sure what the vision of it should look like. It's more so like users should be able to like click on a certain location
mhm,
or input. So there should be like some kind of address or search bar so they can input a certain
mhm.
location and then select which one that they want. And then it'll just like, do like a map pin or whatever on that location. And then they can give it a name for the chat, and that's that. They've created the chat.
Okay, cool. Just looking through.
And another thing that just popped into my head while we're talking about this, like, and this is like something that from I've noticed from my freelancing experience, a lot of people who aren't necessarily in this industry or who don't do this a lot, it's like, oh, they when they say, oh, we're gonna do an app, and they like, oh, all it is just 4 pages, and that's all it is, and it's not gonna be more than five or exactly. But then as you like start thinking about the functionality and and I'm circling back to this because
Hmm.
I remember I said, okay, just 4 pages in the beginning of this, right? Then you start thinking, okay, this list that's going to show when they type in the search bar, how are we going to represent that? Is that going to be the same view, another view? Oh, then what about when they're creating the chat? Is there going to be a confirm button, et cetera, et cetera? And like
Yeah,
applications like these can easily just blow up when you think
yeah.
it's something small. But I won't hold you for too long. Just the 4. I don't want to take too much of your time, so we'll just get as much as we can done here and now.
No, but that's really like when I think here it's kind of a good idea. What you're doing right now is just setting up kind of like the main screens that you want to have, and then when you take it to your engineer, or like if you're engineering it yourself, you need to think about those like little intermediate steps. So like we could just show a simple one where like I have one screen right here where it's let me get, this is where you input whatever address or something you want, and so we can do this is where I would like a little icon. So I'm gonna just try to see if I can do this really quickly. Search icon in that little nouns link I sent you. Let's see if I can get this icon. Okay, I have to sign up, and I'm not going to do that right now. But I might just
like a circle and a line
ugly
through or something. That could work.
Yeah, I kind of hate this, but I'm going to just screenshot it, and I hate that the background is white. But you'll get the gist of like you put a little icon right there for your search, and then we could put some type word in there of like, let's just
enter address or something.
Yeah.
Like the placeholder.
Enter address.
Yeah.
Enter location maybe.
Right.
And then center that. And again, I'm looking at kind of some examples. So whenever you're doing an app and everything, especially if most likely people have already, you're kind of taking a similar gist. So like Google Maps would probably be like a good, because I feel like quite a few people use it.
Already
and so
know how to use it and how it works.
Yeah, so you're not changing the whole like interaction, because if you're changing it, like it'll probably be confusing to your user, and they're probably going to be like, well, this is kind of annoying and I'm not going to use it. And so sometimes you don't need to reinvent the wheel.
Right.
And so that's what I'd say. So right now I have it as, and this is kind of where I'm, as kind of a designer or PM, and even as an engineer, you're thinking like, I could do it this way and I could do it this way. I could do it where we have a bottom kind of like menu bar. And so that might be an option where we could do that, where we have like a map view, and you'd have like a little, maybe like a map icon. You would have, I guess you only have like two things. You have your map, and then you have your chats. Right? So that could just be 2 buttons here.
Okay. So like
once you start getting more menu items, like I'm pretty sure like Google Maps has like a ton, because they're just such a big app. You could do a little hamburger menu right here. I think that's what they do. And so once you click that, like a little pop-up,
like a side menu. Right. But yeah, that's something I didn't even think of, like the navigation between all these pages. Yeah, I think like a bottom tabs would be perfect for this, where it's like you said, one would be for the map, and then the other for the chat list. At which point I think doing the chat list is probably the better alternative.
We could do, again, you'd probably want to get not these white background ones. But this could be like, I guess since there's only 2 of them, I'm thinking through of like, if I want to have like the little icon and then it says something like maps,
like
you could probably get away with that. Like, let me try to get a line in here to separate the 2. That'll make like a little darker. I want that to be skinnier. Just to decipher that there's 2 actions.
2 distinct.
So some apps, when you don't have a lot of room, would just like have your little icon down here.
Right.
Since we only have 2, and maps and chats are pretty small, you could potentially just write in maps and chat. I kind of like icons; they're kind of fun.
Right. Yeah.
You could have both if you want. I'm trying to find a chat icon.
I think icons also give like the impression of like a higher quality than if things were just text. Just in general, looking at different apps and like how the average consumer, what the expectations they have for apps, et cetera.
Yeah. Also, another little Figma hint is when you want to scale things to not like distort them, you take the side and you press shift and you scale up and down. And if I didn't do that, it would get all funky like this. So I just press shift again, and it kind of set it back.
Okay, awesome.
So we could go like this. You could also have it like this and then write chat, but we could just keep it as this, and you can kind of assess once you go in. And so this, the gray screen would be a map.
Right.
And I would add just like one intermediate screen. So when you were telling me once what happened? Why is this not copying? Copy. Okay, there we go. So once you like enter your location, you were saying that
it asks for like a name. Yeah, for this I was thinking of like something at the bottom could just pop up, kind of like how you've probably used Uber before, right? How they have the map and then there's like the thing at the bottom that shows you the cars around you or whatever, or rather that shows you the prices for the different types of cars. Yeah, so I was thinking maybe something at the bottom, just like a card cutout at the bottom that has like another input that says, okay, enter a name and like a save button, and it can be as simple as that.
Okay, cool. So let's just say you entered. Touch, do you want to put a location, just like a pretend location while
Yeah, just some random. Oh, you want me to do that? Okay, cool. I can finally do something. Nice. Been waiting. It's my moment to shine, y'all. Okay, I'll just copy this. Hope I don't mess this up. And I'll just paste this. And I'll just put it right here. Let's make it slightly bigger.
Yeah,
or maybe smaller.
And that would be also fun, like when you actually have it colored, like having that little pin is like the
blue
main primary
or whatever,
color that your app has.
Right.
Would be fun. Okay, so are you talking about something like this?
Yeah, this looks perfect. It's exactly what I was thinking of.
Cool. Okay, and so you want the input of
like a name or something, and just a name,
like the chat name or something.
Yeah.
Like that?
Yeah, exactly. And then like a button somewhere that says save. And yeah.
Do you want any other information other than that?
Well, each chat does have an avatar, like a photo profile pic. So maybe make it a bit taller and add like a circle in the make the cutout thing a bit taller. Add like a circle and then like a camera icon or something.
Yeah, I love that.
That might work.
And then I'll get the icon. Also, do you want to just enter a location? So when you go from screen to screen, like I've entered a location, like where it says enter location, just randomly type something for that.
Oh, right. I can do that. California's a nice place.
Also, sometimes it's fun to when you, sometimes you use either lo-fi or hi-fi prototypes to do testing with your user.
Right.
And so that would be like, you could do it for a lo-fi just like these to kind of see if a person could understand that you create a chat by typing in location, and then you this little pop-up comes up and they'll give you feedback of if that would work or not. Also, part of me wants to, if you don't have another I guess field entry like chat name, I'd almost want to make this like just shorter and then put it right by here, because there's a lot of empty space right here.
I see what you're saying. Yeah, let's see what that looks like. Yeah.
Okay, I need to ungroup those, and I can just move it up, and I can make this just a little bit smaller. Then
it can be shorter.
Shorter.
Right.
To select a lot of things, like as you can see, everything is selected, and I just grouped them together, but you just hold shift and press everything you want. And so as you can see here, you can see that I'm bringing it forward and back. So on your keys, it's like the bracket.
Right.
And so the right bracket is bring to front, left bracket,
Just push it
go.
back. Gotcha.
And you can do it manually too, like this. You can see it's little brackets. And so I'm going to bring this down a little bit. And then just for fun,
You still
to
need a
make it seem
save
kind of
button there.
oh, a save button? Right.
right.
Okay, let's bring, oops.
Or I guess we would also need like an X button to like a save and an X button to cancel as well. Now that I think about it.
Let me see here. With these, I'm just looking at the lift examples right now and seeing like what they do. Let's see here. Yeah, we could have a cancel button. I think that, I was just thinking like, would that make sense here? Or would we just have them like press somewhere else? But
Yeah. Because I think with lift,
definitely
it
have
might be
that.
like a back arrow on like the top of the page or something. Now
The
that I
top of
think
the page.
about how they might have it. Yeah.
Let me see.
But either works, whether it's on top or if it's a cancel button on this same cutout thing.
Yeah, it could be a cancel. It could be like a little X right here as well.
Yeah, that makes sense as well too. Yeah, because it pops up and X's. Yeah, that I think that even is better. I like that better.
I'll have that there. So this would be, I'm just going to put it as like the random pink. And you would do this as whatever color is your primary color probably of like the save.
Right.
And again, the corner things to like make it into like a round over here. So you could do it different ways. I'm just trying to see if it looks better if we did it like a little small button or we moved this down.
I think maybe making it a bit skinnier. I'm tempted to not. Well,
Like
yeah, skinnier. Yeah, exactly.
shorter.
The length. Yeah. What do you think?
I'm a little torn because I feel like it's a little awkward looking with the camera and the chat name. I'm just gonna look for some inspiration.
Gotcha. Always gotta
So
find
like,
inspiration.
let's see here. Save image as copy image. Right here. So like, this is a good example. Where they have like the little profile pic and then they have that big button. So I almost want to do something like that.
Okay, yeah, and looking at it here, it makes sense. Yeah, it makes sense.
I want to make it. We're gonna have an X button, so I'm gonna make this not this. I want this ungroup. Sometimes when you group things, it's hard because you are trying to find again. These little things adjust the radius too.
Okay. Just nice.
And so let's see, what does it look like? Has a big accept button at the bottom.
Right.
So that would be this, I assume. This is really big. Let's see. I might have to adjust this after. I'll have to make ours maybe as big.
When you do design as part of your work, how often do you find yourself doing it collaboratively, like kind of like this with somebody else? Or is it more so you work on your own and then you go get feedback from someone?
The latter more. Just because people work at different paces, and maybe if I was an actual designer and I wasn't just like a PM,
right,
I might collaborate a little bit more. But just like on the day-to-day, I probably just like work by myself, and then I meet with my designer or I meet with an engineer or other PMs, and then we talk about like, okay, like what did you work on? Like, here's the design that I did. Like, what do you think of it?
Okay, that makes sense. And another thing I've been curious about is like, so obviously you're working at Microsoft and you're working on Edge, right? These are, Microsoft obviously one of the five biggest companies in the world, and
Hmm.
Edge, one of the, I think probably the second or third most popular browser out there.
Yeah, we're getting there.
So it's like, how does it feel to work on a product in a company that just has such a wide impact, knowing that, oh, this thing that you're designing or this experience that you're working on is going to be used, critiqued, abused by millions and millions of people.
Hmm.
How do you, yeah, how does that feel when you're going about your work?
It definitely is a little intimidating
Mm,
because like things can fail pretty quickly, and like I
right.
guess I haven't really been able to kind of practice how to react to that. But overall, I would say like I really enjoy it because part of the reason I decided to join Microsoft full time was because I knew I was going to be on the Edge team.
Mm,
And so I really wanted to be on a consumer facing team because I love talking to consumers and I love just like making products and features that are actually going to be used by people and hopefully the goal to make their lives a lot easier and more delightful. And
right.
so to answer your question, yeah, I think I really enjoy it and I don't think I would have accepted slash gone back if I was on maybe like an Azure team, and Azure's like obviously super cool and
Mm,
definitely for like a certain type of person who wants to work on those things. But again, it's not like consumer focused. It's just more of like internal and like enterprise people who are working at different companies. And you
mm,
obviously need a user experience for that, but they're very specific people versus consumers. Like our user groups sometimes are very large and range from like teenagers who are really tech savvy to maybe older people who don't really know how to use their computer very well. So like,
mm,
how do you make a feature that can balance between both? Like, don't annoy the teenager that knows so much, but don't make it
right.
so difficult that someone who doesn't have a lot of technology experience, like,
Mm,
be I don't know, maybe they start thinking that they're not smart or something.
right.
And
Right.
so I think it's really fun, and I wanted to be on a team that focuses on consumer. And so I think my
Mm.
team is the Edge consumer team. So we obviously have it in our name.
Right, right.
Oops.
Yeah, and one of the things that I've noticed in working for a larger company versus a smaller one, because I've worked for a few startups myself, is like the level of effort and detail that is taken to account for things like accessibility and
Hmm.
different customer types and like just how, because like I've worked on some projects where nobody gives two f's about accessibility, nothing like that. It's just build it as fast as possible, spit it out, and just it's done. But then
Yeah.
obviously part of the dev cycle, I know for like the two internships I've done at Microsoft, making sure that what you're building is accessible. Like there's a bunch of like tests that you have to run just to make
Yep.
sure that it's compliant, and just so many different things that each feature has to go through before it touches the user's hands. Like just
Yeah.
at a large company, like it's mind blowing how much effort they put into it. And I think what's even more mind blowing is that, and I guess it's just in the nature of the industry we're in, where like no matter what you do, you can't totally eliminate all bugs or all issues or whatever. So it's like
Hmm.
even with all that, like you can still have bugs creep in, things can happen, et cetera, which I guess is job security for us, because we can just keep fixing
Yeah.
things when they break, et cetera, et cetera. But yeah, it's just very interesting to think about, and it's one of the things I really love about this industry in general. And like just another thing is like the different types of people that can be involved in it. Like for me, I wouldn't say I'm like the most, people focusing individual. I have my moments, I have my times. But for the most part, I mostly, just like to work on like kind of writing code and just, I'm in my zone, I'm in my lane doing my thing. But then someone like you who's really passionate about working with people, listening to other customers, considering their input, et cetera, and designing something that's tailored to what you're getting. It's great how like these two different kinds of people can come together, work together, and produce a product that millions of people use. Is another thing I really I think it's great, you know, with working with
Yeah,
companies like these.
I love working with like different people who have obviously different personalities and they have different strengths and weaknesses and everything.
Hmm.
And um, you know, I wouldn't be happy, and I think a lot of people would agree, like just working with like one type of person that's very similar to you, because then you're not going to really get anywhere.
Right.
And so it's really cool, like even when you're in a big company, and I can't speak to little companies,
Hmm.
but you know, at Microsoft, which is such a large company, I work with like a ton of different people who have different backgrounds. Like some people are like marine biology
Wow.
majors, and like a lot of people are obviously computer science
Hmm.
and design. But you know, I think Microsoft has a lot of people who just don't have the typical like engineering
Right.
design background
Background.
that you would assume, but honestly like makes them a stronger employee and like teammate, because they like, I don't know, they're super interesting and they bring super unique backgrounds. And so that's what I've enjoyed so far at Microsoft, of like just there's so many people there, and like you can't like get bored really.
Yeah, I feel that. And then there's like the awesome what is it called? Like the cafeteria place they have on campus. You've
Hmm.
been there? Have you ever been there before?
Yeah, so there's like a bunch of cafeterias all
Mm.
over. Like I almost think of Microsoft like campus as like its own little mini city. Like
Right. No, it
it
definitely
has the
is.
North Campus and it has the East Campus.
Hmm.
And those, I mean, I haven't unfortunately been able to be on campus when it's like bustling and a lot of people are there, and you can just kind of like walk by and just randomly talk to someone. Usually it's kind of sad and like um, maybe five people or something. But I think
Hmm.
those, I'm excited maybe for one day if we're
Right.
all back on
All back.
campus and we can all just like, I don't know, go to the cafeteria together and you just randomly sit down with someone, or like someone introduces you to someone, and that's
Right.
how you um, network
Network
and
and
also
all
make
that
friends.
stuff. Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a really, and I really like how like it kind of extends that college vibe. Because
Yeah.
like I feel like for a lot of people, maybe not for a lot of people, but I feel like there's definitely that sense of, oh, once college is over, and you're like, oh, you know, I'm going into this thing that's completely strange and foreign. You know, what am I gonna, et cetera, et cetera. So just like the vibes of the place is very much like, you know, your average college campus or whatever. So it's
Yeah.
pretty nice in that regard.
So I was just starting on
Yeah, the
this and I
chats
wasn't sure.
list.
Um, it should say chat somewhere, and I was just looking through different chat list
Mm-hmm.
apps of like what they some have messages, messages in the middle, and then they have a search and a little icon, but we might not want to do that.
Mm-hmm.
So this is where it just like shows all of the
The different
um,
chats you're a part of.
I'm just gonna make, I'm gonna do the easy parts first. Sometimes I just like to, I get stumped and I don't know exactly like how it should look, and so
Mm-hmm.
I just move on, honestly. So let's just pretend we have an actual real person here,
Mm-hmm.
and I might just grab someone's photo. Oh my
Mm-hmm.
gosh, why does it not grab this whole thing? Oh, because it's white. That would make sense.
Mm-hmm.
Um, just make it gray so we can see that it is a person. So that would be like whatever photo that they put in. I might make this like slightly smaller.
And small.
And then the other typical things that you would probably have on the chat is like the group name. And
Mm-hmm.
so we can do this a couple different ways. Like sometimes I like just having like big like buttons, but I think most messaging apps just like kind of separate the different chats by like a little gray line or something.
Right.
Again, this is something I would probably want to talk to an engineer about, of like
Mm-hmm.
what kind of components do you have? Like I think a lot of, I'm not sure if a lot of companies, or if you've heard of like Fluent, if that's what it's called, but it kind of depends like what kind of components and I guess APIs and stuff that your company uses or you want to use as a project,
Mm-hmm.
because it kind of depends on that. So do you want me to do kind of like separate it by a button, or we just want to
No, I think a line
have a
would be
button?
perfect. Yeah, because I already have in mind the component library to use for this. Yeah, and
Okay,
I
cool.
definitely think a line is something that's a part of it. Yeah.
Okay. Well, we'll make this pretty small line, and I'm going to make it pretty light, so you have slight definition.
Okay, looks nice.
And then probably, okay, I'll figure out the top thing after we just
Yeah,
put in the
yeah.
information.
No need to
So this would be like,
focus on that.
what's 14? Okay. I've never been good at like what sizes you should be using on apps. There's probably like just a guide that I would probably just Google,
Right.
but I don't want to
Take up too much
waste
time.
our time doing
Yeah,
that.
gotcha.
And then usually it has kind of like, I don't
Like
know,
a
the first line or
preview,
whatever.
exactly, of the message.
Um,
It's like, hey,
so,
y'all. That works too.
and then probably the time. The
Mm.
time, or I'm just like looking at what other people do. Also, like we could show what it looks like if they had a notification, or if like the chat is you have a new chat in that.
New message, right?
Kind of like how Facebook does it, or Meta, I guess,
Meta,
Messenger.
right.
Where it just has like the preview of the message, and then maybe you could do, I don't know, you could be creative and do like, I'll be creative.
Yeah, I'm not. I don't intend to get you blacklisted or anything like that. But would you ever consider working for a company like Meta?
I do have some like, I think Microsoft and Google were my top choices to work at.
Right.
Just because, I don't know, I think they have really good values, and there's obviously being a woman in tech is a little bit different, and it's been kind of, I think, a struggle in the past where, you know, we have to work 10 times as hard, you know, and I think that just hearing from different people, Microsoft has really tried to grow in that area, especially when Satya came into position. But I would still consider, I probably wouldn't consider Meta that much. Also Amazon, I'm not really sure. They're just in the news for some not great things. But I think maybe in 2 to 3 years, I might consider looking into other companies just to kind of have kind of a change.
Right.
But also I might just look at a different place in Microsoft. Like maybe I want to work on Xbox, or I want to work on like Minecraft or something, you know, like that could be a lot of fun. And I think being at a big company, there's a lot of jumping around that you can do.
Right.
That's easy. So this could be just like the little notification. And again, this could be your primary color.
Right.
Also, what's fun is if you press I when you're on something like this, it gets your like eyedropper. And so as you can see here, I can just click on it and then it turned that color. And so if you're like, oh, I don't remember the hex code, you could quickly do that. And also Figma lets you line things up. I'm not sure if you see the lines, but
No,
when you move things around, it'll have like these red lines. So you're like aligned to your other shapes, or if you're aligned in the middle or something, which is what another thing that I really like about. So we'll just say like 2 messages, like you have 2 messages right here.
Awesome.
This could probably be like a little smaller even.
Yeah, when you mentioned 3 to 5 years, thinking about other options, it reminded me of one thing. And since you're a native of Washington, I'd be interested in getting your thoughts on this. So for me, I kind of think that, you know, with everybody in this industry, within like the first 5 years of a career, that's your time to like, you know, move around a bit if need be, right?
Yeah.
For whatever reason, you know, there could be lots of reasons, like you don't know where you want to settle for the rest of your life. You don't know, the place can be very expensive. I know, you know, I spent a week over last summer over there.
Yeah.
And, you know, the house we were staying in, an Airbnb, like 900 to something K, which is ridiculous because the house doesn't even have as many rooms and amenities as the one I live in here, which is probably like half that cost, which is just crazy. But one thing I was thinking of, if I ever did move to Seattle and live there, was living in a trailer, or just anywhere at all, like on the West Coast, was like living in an RV or a trailer, just to avoid paying the rent. 'Cause like I know we also sat down with a couple employees and they were telling us that like the average they paid for rent was like,
oh yeah, it's ridiculous,
3,500 or something. And then I also looked into it, and I think I saw like some of the cheapest places were like 1,900, which is like, you know, like 20K or more a year, something like that, something crazy. So I was thinking, you know, maybe instead of doing that, how about I buy an RV, right? It's like a really big RV you can live in. Just live in there for like what, 5 years, I kind of did the math, like over in 5 years, how much you would spend on rent is like at least 100K or so if you're living over there. And so, you can get a decent RV for like, I don't know, a good 40, 50, maybe 60K. And then you have to buy like a truck to pull it. That's like another 40K. So you're looking at, maybe like 80 to like 90 for the whole thing. But then the good thing is like after that 5 year period, you can then sell the truck or the RV and recoup some of those funds back. And then not to mention the amount of savings you would get based on whatever salary that you were going to be
Yeah.
making, right? And so I don't know. To me, that seemed like a good idea. I don't know. Like, what do you think? Is
Why
Seattle
not?
or is Washington like a decent
I think
place to have an
Washington is
RV and live in? Or
I think that's a I think Washington or the Pacific Northwest in general is a good place like to have
mm,
an RV or whatever you want to have because like there's so much nature around here and
right?
that's why I grew up here. So I grew up on Bainbridge Island, so just very
Hmm.
away from Seattle, but we have the Cascades and we have the Olympics and we have just like so many hiking places and I think an RV is really good because you can just like drive it there and
Right.
there's a lot of campsites and everything at all of these different locations around the Seattle area, but just in general Washington.
Hmm.
I would say like the coast. I wouldn't really go into the east. But I know a lot of people like rent RVs even just for like the summer and they go around and they do a road trip along the coast. So like
Oh,
Washington, Oregon, and even Northern California, because there's just so many parks and mountains and hikes that you can do. And having an RV is like perfect because then you don't have to buy a hotel and
right.
Airbnb all the time.
Right. Oh wow, you gave me more reason to take this because like a lot of my friends here when I tell them about it, they're like, "Oh no, Tosh, don't do it."
I mean, you
Yeah,
have to be ready for some rain
yeah, yeah. But I mean,
and some cold.
regardless, that is true. But RV has a roof. You could just stay inside
Yeah, you're
or
fine.
with the heater on. Um, yeah. But
I
like,
mean, it's just an adventure.
yeah, in terms of like, because like another thing, like parking or whatever, like a place to stay. Like, do you? And I know you haven't lived in
Mm,
an RV. I'm not sure if you would know, but do you have any idea what that would look like?
I actually don't like. I know what it would look like when you're like going to different hiking places, but I'm not sure like where you would store it like here, like where you would live like full time. But
Hmm.
I bet Google would help.
Right,
I just have
right.
never thought of that or like seen that.
Yeah, yeah. Part of the reason too
Okay,
is like
so
because like if you end up switching jobs or whatever, right? Rather than like
mhm.
worry about like a lease and all that stuff, you can just take your RV and just drive to the next place to park that's
Yeah,
closer to the company
exactly.
you work at. So
No, that I think do it while you're young, you know,
absolutely, yeah. Which is part of the
when you
reason
don't
I'm
have
thinking of
responsibilities.
which is part of the reason I'm just thinking of it for like the next 5 years or as soon as I move out 5 years then. So yeah.
Yeah, no, and I think honestly now people aren't like thinking of having like responsibility like kids and stuff like as early as they used to.
Right.
And so like you have time and like honestly don't want that. Anyway, so I just pasted this in because that's kind of like
The
I
model.
think a good example of a model that you could do. And um, I was thinking of we could do the chat room. So this is like when you're actually in the chat room, right?
Right, right.
So I clicked on this first name.
Hmm.
Maybe I'll name this. What should we name this chat name? Chat room.
I mean, it depends. I'm not very creative when it comes to names.
Okay.
uh,
Do pink elephant.
that sounds awesome. Who doesn't love pink
Just so
elephants?
like people know like I clicked on it and then I can
Right.
say right here in the next one I named it pink elephant. So we're like, okay,
Mm,
we clicked on it.
gotcha.
Also, when if you're like a real designer and like that is your job title,
Mm,
there's just like so many comps because you have to have this state where I'm like, okay, I'm looking at the chat list. You have to have the state of if I'm hovering. I guess this is
right.
not for apps because you don't really
Yeah,
hover
you
on
don't really
apps, but
hover on apps.
I guess coming from like a desktop and like a browser kind of mentality,
Mm,
I've always had to think about okay, what's the hover state of all of these actions, and then what's the click state. So
right.
if you're I don't know if you made this into like if you're making a website or something, you would have to think about those states, which
Mm,
is just another thing that you
Yeah.
have to think about. But
Yeah.
let's
And
see here.
it's very, because like I feel like this is good because I feel most people don't necessarily know what it takes, what goes into building apps, etc., etc. So this is like all this dialogue is really great for giving them a sneak peek, an idea into like the subtle art of it all.
Yeah, exactly. So on this chat room, like, can you let me know like what actions you want people to be able to make?
So just sending messages,
Sending
obviously,
messages,
being able to attach images,
images.
um,
Okay,
and then like a back button, and I think that should be it.
that should be right here, probably. Like right
Yeah,
here.
exactly.
I'm gonna see. This is where I would go to my little logos and be like back,
Right.
and then I'm just gonna grab this, and we can just be a little ugly right now, but you get the gist of it. And this, when you put an icon in, like you can use whatever icon you find
Yeah, I'm
that you
pretty
want to
sure
do.
the icon library I plan on using will have icons for all these. These are like standard, so I'm
Yeah.
pretty sure it
So you
will.
just like look it up and easy
Mm-hmm.
peasy. There's also a tool on the bar that looks like a little pen, and you drop it down, and it says pen and pencil.
Oh,
This
you're
is if you
talking
want to
about the
go,
Figma bar. Okay.
yeah, Figma. And if you want to kind of go rogue, I guess, you can click on it and you can kind of just like shape it out. So right here, you'll soon see that I'm making a triangle.
Oh wow.
Now it's ugly right now, but it's okay because I'm going to fill it in. And I'm going to get rid of the outline.
Wow. Yeah,
And
that
I'm going to
came
put it right
together quite
here.
nicely.
So, it's not perfect or anything, but, to make it kind of look like
Like
a
an actual
conversation
chat
bubble.
bubble, right?
Yeah.
It's
Just
awesome.
to like show that it is chat. And so, okay, we have that. And then are we going to be able to make calls
No, no,
as
no.
well? Nope,
Just
no calls. Okay.
messaging.
Just chat. I'm going to put it in right now and you can change it later. But I would have like a little menu button if you want to change, if you want to add people or if you want to.
Right. Like
And we don't have
admins
to
or
go
kick
into
people out.
that.
Yeah, no, no. I don't think we should. I don't want to keep you much longer. We're already like what 20 minutes over the
That's
allotted
okay. This
time.
is fun. This is fun. I
Yeah,
haven't
it
done this in a long
definitely
time.
is.
Okay, I'm gonna grab these buttons. They're just 3 dots. I'm lazy. I could just draw these with the circles, but I don't feel like it. So I'm just gonna rotate them. And like they would just be in the corner. And that's too big. Something like that. So if you
Yeah.
wanted to, in the future, add that in. Okay, so now we also want to be able to send messages. Okay, so back when I was talking about the components, this menu bar down here that I'm highlighting, that would
Right.
be what you would want to make into a component. I'm pretty sure how I would do this is just, Tochi, if you want to right click on this
Right
for
click.
them, and there should be kind of like 2/3 the way down. It's called create component.
Create component. Well, I suck at reading, so hopefully there we go. Right there. Create component.
Yeah, so that's what you would click on if you wanted to create that as a component.
Gotcha.
And I would put a component like somewhere else, like up in the Figma, not on any of the screens. And those would be your like grouping of components. And then you copy the component and you put it in your app designs. And so if you're like, oh, actually, I hate this color, or oh, I don't like this icon, you would just easily be able to exchange it and it would copy it for what? We only have 4 screens, but I mean, imagine if you had 20 and you had to go change all of those screens because you don't want a color anymore.
Yeah.
That's where component saves you a
Comes
massive
in.
amount of time.
Gotcha. Cool.
Okay, cool. We're almost done.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I'm just gonna add in the box that you would send a chat now.
Right. Yeah. So the tabs at the bottom, they wouldn't be in this view, right? Since like I'm imagining the
True.
chat page would get pushed on top of. Yeah.
True. That's
The
a good point you
tabs.
have. I'm going to put. I think right here we could do the. So right now, let's see here.
So just out of
I'm just
curiosity,
looking.
what are some things that you do, let's say like when you're not on the clock, just by yourself for fun? Uh,
Well, honestly, this reminds me that I should probably do more of these. Um, but I really love to cook.
mm,
So I guess there's like winter things I do and summer things. So in the winter,
mm,
it's kind of cold here in Seattle,
which
and
is
it's
what I
really
like
rainy
about
a
the
lot.
place.
Yeah, see, I love it being cold. I don't really like to be hot all the time.
Right, right.
Um, so I like to cook a lot and try new recipes, and um, I kind of got that from my mom. She loves cooking, and she would always include me in whatever she was doing. And
Mm,
so I was always able to kind of be her sous chef. And so now I've like
mhm.
become the chef. And so I try to like, I was better during quarantine, but I try to make a new recipe every single week,
Wow, okay.
and kind of assess it. And if it's good, then I put it in like my little Google Doc that I have for like recipes that I like to make. And
Mm,
then I also like to watch TV. I
right.
like watching shows and movies, and I feel like that's a good thing to do in the winter, especially when it's like just really disgusting outside.
Mm.
Um,
Are you a Marvel fan at all?
I am a big Marvel fan.
Ah, nice to be in company, pleasant
Oh yeah,
company.
I've
What's your
I just
favorite
recently.
that you've seen like last year?
It would definitely have to be Shang-Chi. That
Ah.
was a really good movie.
Hmm.
Oops. And then I don't know. I thought it was just really cool to um, see, an Asian superhero.
Right,
Um,
right.
and I
Yeah,
love
there's
all
not
those.
a lot of the
Yeah,
except for Wong in whatchamacallit.
love Wong. Love
Doctor
Wong.
Strange, yeah.
He's so funny.
Right, absolutely. Have you seen
Um,
Spider-Man at all?
hmm
And
I love Spider-Man. That's
you don't
also
think
a close contender
yeah, close contender? What? Close? What?
to recently what I've seen of
Yeah.
like what's good.
Mm.
Because I watched all the Spider-Mans with like Andrew Garfield and Tobey
Tobey
Maguire.
Maguire, yeah.
Like those. Did you watch those?
Yeah, I've seen. Well, I don't think I've seen all the Andrew Garfield ones, but definitely Tobey Maguire was like my childhood. I've seen all those,
Really?
and yeah, and I've seen all the Tom Holland ones as well. So yeah,
Yeah. So I thought that was just like a cool just movie like for that,
right. No, it
and
was really awesome. And part of the reason I'm surprised is like for me, I think that's the best Marvel movie that came out this year, hands down. Because it was just like
it was really
so
good.
much of my childhood just in one place, and like the way they executed it was just so awesome. Yeah, it was great. I haven't seen Shang-Chi yet. Maybe I should.
You
I need to
should. It's
get a
so good.
better
I think
idea.
I think I like personally like, and I'd love to know your opinion as well of
Mm,
like kind of like the newer um, Marvel movies. I feel like they just have a lot more humor in them, and I just
right.
really love that. And I think
Mm,
I don't know. I just like when you're in the theater and then all of a sudden it's kind of funny and like
everyone
everyone chuckles at
laughs.
the same time.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Like I think that's
Yeah,
hilarious.
I think that's one thing that Marvel executes pretty well is like the comedic aspect of things, as opposed to like DC. Like if you watch a Batman movie, there's definitely a
Yeah,
lot less quips, and it's a lot darker and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, Marvel, the MCU is really, I think it really started with like what's that movie called again? Ragnarok, Thor Ragnarok.
yeah.
That's when like it was like a lot like
It's okay to be
comedy.
funny.
Exactly, exactly. It's been pretty awesome ever since. Yeah, my favorite
Um,
Marvel movie of all time is still definitely Endgame, I'd say.
really,
And then
that's a good
Spider
one.
Man is probably second. For No Way Home, it's probably second.
No Way Home.
Mm.
Yeah, it's kind of hard. I really like. I'm not actually sure now that I'm like trying to remember.
Mm.
But I also really like Endgame. That's just
Yeah.
a really
I
I
always
don't
get
know. It's epic.
goosebumps. Yeah, I always get goosebumps when I watch that final scene where all the heroes are coming in from the portals,
Oh, I
and
know.
then the dramatic music is playing. Yeah, it's goosebumps
You're
every
like, I
time.
actually wish I was there and
Right.
like fighting with them. I'm deciding right now if I want to put a backsplash for like the top, like right here.
A backsplash.
So just
Okay.
like a color of like this is kind of like your header.
Right, right.
I'm thinking if I do it here, I have to do it on the chat list one, and I'm trying to figure out like
Well,
how
they
that
are
would
two
look.
distinct page. Like, I mean, obviously, but like, this, like, there are two different kinds of pages. Like the chats list one is like a default,
Yeah.
like tab navigated page, and this one is more of a, it pops up like a stack. So if they were different, I think it might be understandable, but we could also play around with making them look similar.
Yeah, because you could also, let's see here, I can undo that. And so move all this down to make it seem like obviously you kind of have the headers are going to be the same.
Distinct, yeah.
And this I would probably put as your maybe like secondary color.
Right.
So here's your chat down here where you can type in. I'm not sure like exactly where this positioning would go. And then obviously when you click into that, you would like.
It pops up the keyboard and.
I know there's when I was doing more of like the design work, you could just Google like iPhone, like we're on iPhone here, but
Right.
iPhone or Android like keyboard components, and you can find
Android, what
Figma
is that? I don't
files.
know. What is an Android? What is
I
that?
know they have like Android, like the different kind of phone of like that I
Wait,
don't use.
there are
Not
phones
me.
that aren't iPhones? What?
And so you can get those like things, and so it looks like it really is an iPhone, and so it makes it just look very cool. But we won't do that for this one, but we'll just, that's kind of cool when you're trying to show more
Right.
of just what you're doing.
Let me see.
And then we'll bring this one down. Yeah, if you wanna.
No, I was gonna try and like make the gray version of it like.
Yeah, you can flip
Is there
it.
a way
I think
to flip it? If I hold shift and there we go. I think I made it a bit bigger than it's supposed to be. And just put it right here.
there must be a mirror one. I know in Adobe Illustrator there is, but I have not figured that
I think I
out.
just like if you drag it from one corner and like drag it across, like at first you would shrink it, but then you'd put it on the other side.
Yeah.
I think it mirrors it. At least
Oh,
that's
there
what
we
I
go.
did
Easy.
to mirror it. So I can make
It's gonna
this
show if
gray.
you can have like different.
Oop, let's do the whole thing, not just. Make it gray. There we go, that's better. Oops. Hi, how are you? Nice weather we're having here.
Just random talk. Small talk.
You watch SpongeBob at all growing up?
I watched it growing up.
Gotcha. Yeah, it's one of those childhood
you
staple
can-
shows.
It's so funny. I love all the memes now.
Right.
10 years later.
Exactly.
Use that all the time. Also, might be fun to actually. So there's gonna be like different. You can add like different people in here, right?
Right. Or
I
they
would
can just join.
I actually might get rid of this and then highlight this and kind of move it over and then include their picture so you like know who's talking.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
So in group chats, if you want to type like right above that gray bubble, put text up there and like put the name or something like Sally or I don't know.
Gotcha.
So because this is like a group message, even if it's not a group message, I think for your app because it's like a location, so anyone can like join into it.
Yeah.
I'm assuming there's probably going to be more than just like one person.
Right. That's true.
So let's see here. I'm going to grab.
Make this a bit lighter. Yeah, you can just leave it as a gray circle. I think that.
Okay, yeah.
Group
so I don't have to probably do too many more things. We can. I'm gonna say so. We say, "Hey, how's it going?" Why do I like forget how people talk? Like... okay, and then I don't know. Someone says, "I'm fine. Why are you?" You know, the weather is nice.
The weather is nice. Ooh.
Trying to get the gist, and then we can move all of this down. So let's just pretend they did not have the long conversation so far. Now I'm gonna probably move like them in a little bit, so we have a little bit of space when you're like actually like coding this up. You'll probably have like a border. of some sort,
Yeah.
like that. And then we'll move this down. And you pretty much have your chat app, actually.
This is awesome.
Then you can do, you know, whatever you want with the background, depending like what you want to engineer and stuff.
Right. This is so cool.
Yeah, this has been fun. I haven't done this, like, it's awesome that you kind of already had the idea, so I don't have to also think
Right.
about
Think about
that. But it's been, I don't know. I don't do, you know, I'm very focused on a set of designs that I do for work.
Right.
Because obviously, like, I'm on at Microsoft and at any big company, it's so big. So, like, there's a lot of people. And so you're just in charge of a very small area.
Portion.
And so, you know, I guess you can be pretty innovative and creative, but, you know, you're still constrained by it. So this is cool. Like, I got to do, like, UI for, you know, chats and UI for map and stuff. And that would not come up in my daily life at work.
Unless Microsoft steals this idea, you know, they're like, oh wow,
No.
it's a great idea. We'll steal it and make millions.
They could buy it off of you.
Ah, that's even better, you know.
Yeah,
200
make it
million,
happen.
you know. Let's make the talk to Satya. Let's make it happen.
Yeah, awesome. I think it looks pretty good.
Yeah. Can we really quickly, before we bounce, can we do like the colors? Maybe just like create like certain squares and just like list what colors they would be. Yeah, this blue we've been using kind of looks nice as a primary.
Yeah.
So maybe we can stick to that.
Make another frame, and it's just gonna be a rectangle right here. And so sometimes I like being like the color.
Is that are you making it at the bottom, below the
above?
Top, above. Okay. Let's see.
You can put it right here. So I love color, and color is just so fun. So another link, I also put the links right here. It's called Adobe Color, and I'll also link it. And it kind of has pre-made color schemes. Because sometimes something about things like just don't look right to me.
Right.
/ I just kind of go on there for just to explore. So if you like blue, like kind of, I guess, like what's a adjective that you would describe your app as?
Popping. Is that an adjective?
We'll see. I'll type
popping.
Yeah, so if you type that in there, like obviously they can't see my screen, but if you go to the link for Adobe Color and then you go to the Explore tab,
right,
and search popping, like there's a bunch of fun colors. And so sometimes what I like to do is I like to go there and I just kind of pick my kind of favorite. You don't have to take everything.
Now, I see some colors that we've already used or similar. Yeah. Like this, you use a certain pink at some point. I see it here. Oh, let me send that to you, or let me paste it here to see what you think. This one.
Did you post a specific color palette?
Yeah. I put a link. I think did it not?
Do you mind? Can you just like screenshot it and then put it in there?
Yeah. See it?
Yep. I like that.
Yeah.
So we can, sometimes I like to combine different color palettes together. For this one, I would probably, I mean, I kind of like this blue. Like, let's see. I want to just experiment to see if we made that blue our primary. That's probably what it would be. I probably wouldn't have it as a white text because these are kind of more pastel colors. But I love a pastel color.
Wait, what are you experimenting on? I'm trying to get it in frame.
The save button on map. If you ever want to know where I am, in the top right on Figma, you can just click on my L, and you'll just track with me. Wherever I go, you will go.
Oh, I wish I knew that this whole time. Yeah,
sorry.
Should have made it.
I should have said that.
How do you zoom in and out though? Because like I have like a zoomed out view. I see a thing.
You're on a Mac. I just like do like the little scroll in. So like
scroll.
Pull your fingers apart.
Oh yeah. Because I use a separate mouse.
Oh, I don't. So, yeah. I think a mouse is like if you control, if you hit shift and like the scroll bar or the scroll thing on the mouse. I think that would put you in and out. But so like that would be like the blue right there.
Okay.
And then a background could probably be, let's see, maybe the lighter blue. And that would probably just be like maybe a white or something.
Okay.
If you want a little bit of a darker, you can always just go into, you click on the shape and then you go into the fill and you can just kind of like make it darker. So if you did want it to be darker, you could just change it. You see the color changing, right?
Yeah, I see it.
Yeah. So like we're kind of in the ball field of that blue color from the palette.
Right.
But if you want it to be darker, you can make it darker.
Yeah, I think a little darker would be good.
Like that?
Yeah, that looks nice. Yeah.
And then I'll just adjust. Oops, wrong way. And then since it's darker, I would probably put this as like a white versus a black. I guess you can make that bold as well, but you can play with that when you're coding it. Let's see. The secondary, I made it as this color. Let's see here. I kind of like the pink. I kind of like all the colors, but I mean, again, you don't want to like
overdo it.
Let's see. What would it look like? I'm changing the chat bubbles if it will let me. Hello? Doesn't like me. Let's see here. Change it to this. Wow, that's so weird. Like it always baffles me when you have different colors, like a color on a color, but then you have color on white. Like the color will look different even though it is still the same color. So that's what the chat would look like.
Yeah, it looks very nice.
You can make this probably just a gray. I think that's most common. And make that dark.
This is coming together quite nicely.
And then let's see here. Oops. This is on top. Are you still following what I'm doing?
Yeah, I'm watching attentively.
I don't know why this goes away when I change the color. Oh, it doesn't. Cool. Just make this white. This is not centered. This would be in, another thing that we didn't talk about, but you would probably need to figure out like your typography.
Right.
And again, like your what you're using would probably just already have it, so you probably just like want to go with what
the
kind
default
of options they give you.
Oh yeah.
Default or I've never been like passionate about typography, but I know some of my friends who are in the program with me really love typography, and there's just like so many. But I think like Google typography? I'm Googling to see if I'm right.
I know sometimes like if it's going back to that polish element that we mentioned earlier. Some fonts just look more professional or easier to read, et cetera, than others. So it makes those slight differences in terms.
No,
like,
it definitely does.
It's like with apps, the smallest differences can determine whether or not your users would spend 5 minutes on a page or in the app versus like an hour or something.
Yeah.
Usually, like a lot of these apps that people tend to spend a lot of time. They have like milder colors, nothing too crazy, basic. Like you don't see too many reds or anything that's like completely out there. Like if you look at IG, it's either white or gray depending on if you have it on dark mode or not. And stuff like that. So yeah, these things play very subtle but important roles in those areas.
No, yeah. If like if you have typography for like Times Roman versus like, I'm gonna butcher this probably, but what is there? Open Sans is very different versus like more of like a cursive. So I don't know. There's a lot of theory on typography and like a bunch of books, and if you just Google it, like Medium articles, so many on those. And so that, I mean, it definitely changes like how your app is portrayed and like how users see it. Like you probably want, I would say like kind of like a modern font,
Right.
kind of like Lyft. Like you see Lyft and you're like, wow, that's kind of like futuristic and modern and simple.
Mm.
So yeah, you can play around. I just put it as orange. You could put it as that pink. You could put
Right.
it as the yellow and make it a little darker. Um, you know, obviously this is um, just like a project, but like
Mm.
when you go into like a bigger company, and I don't really know a lot about this, but like accessibility and like how it's going to look like in dark mode versus light mode
Right.
um, is something like I wanted to make one of the tabs or like one of the buttons a different color to make it like, you know, more energetic and stuff. And you have to think about, okay, people who are like colorblind, like, are they going to be able to see
Mm.
that? And also, if in dark mode, is it going to look weird? And so those are kind of just things that I've recently just honestly like thought of.
Mm.
Um,
Yeah, that
so
makes
yeah.
sense. But so far, this is like an amazing start. Like this is actually better than what I expected coming into this. Like this is
Oh my gosh, I'm glad.
yeah, no, this is great because it's
Glad I
like
didn't
one of
disappoint.
the it's like the main purpose, and maybe I haven't talked to you about it for this project. Is like I don't plan on making this like an actual business or anything like that. It's just to show people, you know, what this process is like,
Yeah.
and also just to have, you know, great conversations with the different guests that I invite, and
No,
just
that's so
build something
awesome.
interesting. So yeah, this is perfect. This is more than what I expected coming into. So yeah,
Oh,
I think
great.
this is a unless there's anything extra you're just itching to do more. I think this is a good place to stop.
No, I think this is good. It
Yeah,
definitely
thank
shows like
you.
what you would do.
Yeah, thank you so much for taking the time. I know we originally thought it was going to be an hour. We've been here for like almost 2 hours.
Hopefully,
So
people don't think it's too long.
yeah, no, so what I do is like I post a long form video, but then I chunk it based on the different topics we talked about or different sections. So
Smart.
I will make a bunch of shorter videos on the different sections about this, and then the for those who want to watch, you know, the 2 hour video, they can do that as well.
Yeah.
Um,
Also, I think it, yeah, thanks so much for having me. And this
mm,
honestly reminded me how much I love just playing with design and just making like mocks that, you know, aren't going to be judged too much
right,
and playing
right.
with colors. So thank you so much for this
Hmm.
opportunity.
Of course, of course. So yeah, before we leave, is there any kind of link or any, you know, social media accounts that you want people to know to reach you or just to see your work, et cetera, et cetera?
Yeah,
Any
we
shout
can.
outs?
No, it's okay. Um, I mean, obviously, my LinkedIn, I would be happy to talk to anyone, and
Mm,
I love design and PM, and would love to talk about it. I can also send my portfolio link, which is being neglected a little bit lately. And obviously, it's harder for me to put projects on it now that I work under an actual company.
yeah,
But
sure.
we can also link that, and then I also I know we talked about some of the kind of resources, and we put it in the color palette. So maybe we
Hmm.
link those for folks. They can learn about those
Yeah,
resources and use them.
right. Awesome, awesome. Well, again, thanks a lot. I won't take up too much more of your time. Hope you enjoy the rest of your day.
Awesome. Thank you. You too.